We talk about the businesses, but I know something that's near and dear to you is giving back. So philanthropy is something that's obviously part of the portfolio. I saw the foundation, and correct me if I'm wrong, iCann to iCann?
iCann to iCann, yep.
The title is fire.
Thank you, thank you.
Talk about the work that you're doing there and the origin of it.
Yeah, no, thank you. See, these brothers came well prepared, man. I forgot to even mention that. So, I mean,
we've done this a few times.
Yeah. I believe that, man. Y'all, your reputation precedes you. So, we grew up in a house with a mother that was a successful pediatrician, but at her core, she was a community activist and community advocate. And so we learned early on, while entrepreneurship and wealth is all important, but if you're not giving back to your community, then what are you really leaving behind? And so we've always moved, even before launching our businesses, through a lens of advocacy. And so the genesis of our foundation was about 10 years ago. We had launched some mentorship programs back home in San Antonio because we just saw the need. And so we just believed in giving back. And so Visa, through another platform, which is a celebrity speaker series platform called iCann Talks, we were able to mobilize community and get celebrities involved to support the foundation work. But at its core, we wanted to provide mentorship programs, empowerment programs for kids that look like us. Because oftentimes those kids don't have exposure. And so the genesis was just innate to who we were as people, just to understand that to much is given, much is required. And we believed in the importance of giving back. And so now our mentorship programs across schools in Texas. We're across 6 schools across the state of Texas. And we wanted to stay in Texas because that's where we're from. And that's where we saw the need. And that's where we were exposed to the need throughout our whole upbringing. And so we're super proud of that work. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that before. But see, my brother reminded me, so I appreciate you.
So how are you able to multitask? I know as far as having so many different verticals, so many different businesses, a lot of people burn themselves out or they spread themselves too thin. So how are you able to stay on top and make sure that every business is running optimal?
No, that's a great question. Every day isn't easy, but I think team. I think team is everything. I think you can never grow a successful business by yourself. I think you have to rely on people, you have to invest in people, and you have to allow people to do what they do best. And so, again, I keep pointing out our general manager, Nani, from HQDC House. She's the best at what she does, and right? So I think it's a testament to people. I think it's also a testament to understanding who you are and how you operate as a business owner, right? I know what I do well, and I know what I don't do well. And so staying out the mess of things that you don't do well, because I think that can ultimately lead to chaos. And I think, again, for us, our journey has been very pragmatic, very practical, very intentional, based upon need. And so I think that's allowed us to grow strategically without growing in an illogical way. But again, it's not easy. I mean, I always say, man, the level of decision fatigue I have on a daily basis is freaking massive. Right? You're making 200, 300 decisions in one day. You're on calls in Nairobi, then you're at a call for HQ, then you're doing an event at the White House. And so the level of kind of multitasking, I'm not gonna lie, it can be over taxing at times. But I think that's when you have to take a step back, really, really focus on your mental health, really focus on taking time to really reflect, be appreciative. And then sometimes just say, hey, I can't do it today, bro. You gotta step in for me, man. I gotta take a day, right? I think that's okay. And one of the panelists in the conversation upstairs said earlier, a former football player, Ray Rice from the Baltimore Ravens, he said he wants his legacy to be that Black men specifically can be vulnerable and say they need help. And so I think that is what I've taken from kind of a critical piece for today and the time moving in my life is just sometimes when it becomes overtaxing, sometimes when it looks like the world is ending and you are so overcome with anxiety and so much going on and so many pieces, take a step back and at those moments just ask for help.
Yeah. I wonder as I'm listening to you talk, we always tend to ask people what's the 5 to 10 year vision or the goal. Is that your approach or is it because you're filling needs? Is it a day-to-day thing, right? There could be a need that comes up next month and we have to fulfill that. So in terms, people always ask you, have you earned your leisure? No, there's still so much to go. How do you approach this? Is it long-term goals or it's need-based? As it comes, we'll approach it and see if we can take it on.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of both, right? So at the micro level, it's we identify gaps and try to fill them, right? But not be reckless and kind of not intentional about it or strategic about it. But we pivot daily, which you have to pivot, right? But we are identifying gaps that need to be filled. But at the macro level, I think we're truly stepping into our purpose now. And our purpose from like a business standpoint is really to change the circumstances, the narrative, and the opportunities for Black people around the world. And so I'm so focused on that purpose now. And that's core to who we are. And so while a gap might exist that we need to fill, but if it's not innate to that purpose, we won't work on that, right? And so now as we do work in Africa, we're launching this global network, we see our vision even clearer. We see our goals even clearer, but they're so macro, but the micro kind of things we do on a daily basis, they have to be working towards the micro. But when you say 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan, we've done those exercises, but we've been successful because we've been able to identify things, pivot, and modify our businesses to support the times that we're in. I think sometimes, don't get me wrong, KPIs, objectives, all those things are super important goals. But I think sometimes when you're not looking at the present and too focused on the future, you can miss things. And so we want to maintain focus on the future, but also be actively changing things in the present to support, the business.
So my last question is leadership. What lessons have you learned and what advice could you give to entrepreneurs as far as being a leader and managing people?
Yeah. So generally speaking, the most important, not even generally speaking, transparently speaking, the most important thing about a business are your people. Without your people, there is no business, right? And so how do you create a culture that encourages innovation, that encourages proactivity, that encourages accountability, that encourages teammanship, that encourages people working towards kind of one common goal? And I think a lot of that leadership has come from my brother. My brother, again, served in the military for 13 years. And I think using that framework, those leadership principles from West Point, really have been invaluable. And then also, just so you all know, I come from a military background. I didn't go to military college, but I went to military school from 2nd to 12th grade. Asked my mom why she sent me to military school at 2nd grade. I didn't know you could even do that. But that taught me those principles too of like teammanship, of like core value. And so I think for us, it's investing in people, understanding that culture is important, and ultimately allowing people to be people. People make mistakes, right? And then also, I think not everybody is the right fit for your organization. And so I always lead with the heart of compassion. My brother leads with like an iron fist sometimes. And so I think it's important to have that level of combination across like the owners, because you can't always be the heart. Sometimes you need to be kind of the harder feature as well.